Are you overwhelmed by having to learn the base game and then have to learn how to play the solo mode? Don't worry, I've got you. I'm going to teach you how to play Wingspan solo from setup to score. By the end of this video, if you want to play multiplayer, you're also going to know how to play the multiplayer game. Howdy and welcome, I'm Mike, your board gaming every dude. This is Board Games for One. Let's set up Wingspan. Let's start by putting the board in the middle of the table. If you're playing multiplayer, each player will have their own player board. For solo, you only have your own. Your AI opponent does not have a player board. Now let's set up the center area. Take your bird card tray, place it anywhere within reach. Take all of your bird cards, it's a big stack. Shuffle them up and put it next to the tray. You don't have to use all the bird cards. If it's well shuffled, you can decide how many you want. You can split it in half if you like. Take 3 cards and place them face up in the bird tray. Just like that. Save room for a discard pile over to the right. Take all of your bonus cards, shuffle them up, and place them to the side within reach. Set up your bird feeder tower wherever you can. You can see I've removed the tower. That's just for the purposes of this video. Just make sure that you can reach it. Give them all a starting roll just to get the game going. Place a nice supply of food tokens in the center of the table and a nice supply of egg tokens. You'll need your final scoring sheet somewhere at the end of the game, so just put it to the side for now. Take the round end card, decide which side you would like to use. This is used at the end of each round, don't worry, we'll go into it later. It's recommended for solo mode that you use the green side, that's more competitive. The blue side is just a little bit friendlier. If you're playing multiplayer, you may want to start with the blue side. For simplicity, we're just going to start with the green side. Then you're going to have 8 of these round end tokens. I only have 4 in my hand, but you'll have 8. You're going to shuffle them up. You're going to randomly pick 4 of them and place them on the round 1, 2, 3, and 4 randomly. They're two-sided. Just randomly pick the side. 2, round 3, and round 4. These tell us our round end goals. Don't worry, we're going to learn how to read them. Take a set of colored cubes of your choice for yourself and put it in your play area. Now, let's start by setting up the solo opponent. Take a look at our solo cards. You've got the Automa Society card. This makes the game much more challenging. For now, we're going to put it to the side, but if you ever want a more challenging game, you will add this to the AI deck. When setting up for the solo mode, you're going to choose your difficulty level. You can choose Eaglet, which means that each face down card that they're going to collect is going to be worth 3 points. That would be easy mode. Normal mode would be Eagle. Each face down card they collect is going to be worth 4 points. Or Eagle-Eyed Eagle, where each face down card will be worth 5 points. For an increased challenge, as mentioned, add the Automa Society card. The AI deck has these blue gears on the back, and you can see each one of them has something for each round with a different icon. For now, just shuffle them all together. If you wanted to use the Automa Society, you would shuffle it in there, shuffle it up, and put it in the AI player area. They also have a round guide. This is optional. It just helps you to read which round you're on. We're going to use it for this game. So put it to the side next to your AI deck. Take a set of cubes of any choice, and these are going to belong to your AI player. You have 2 cards that act as a guide. These are for quick reference. You can put them to the side for now, but you may want to have them out when you play by yourself. And then the AI end of round goals. You'll see there's a round 1, round 2, round 3, round 4. So we're going to stack them up, and we're going to start with round 1 and put it next to your end of round tile. Next, we're going to draw our bonus cards for the AI player. You're going to draw a card from the top. If it is the breeding manager or the backyard birder, go ahead and just discard it and draw another card. So if we flip this and it was breeding manager, we could just put it back in the deck, draw another one, and use that. Same with the backyard birder. Another thing to note, if you flip over a card that does not have a percentage at the bottom, so this card says 18% of cards, these 3 you'll notice, and these are the only 3, do not have a percentage at the bottom, they are not going to work for the AI deck. So if you flip one of those over, just put them at the bottom and draw another card. So we have a bonus card, the Fishery Manager, and we're going to put that over by the AI deck. I'm going to put it up here just to make sure it's all within view. And you can reshuffle the bonus deck if needed. You'll notice my space is a bit more condensed than yours will be. That's for recording purposes, but you can keep it all this close. It works well. Now let's set up your player area. You're going to have one of each food type to start with. So that's your fish, your grains, your fruits, your invertebrates, and your rodents. You also get to draw 5 bird cards from the pile. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. There we go. Start with those 5 cards. Again, you can give yourself a little more room. For the purpose of this video, actually, I'm not going to use this tray. Just pretend it's there. And this is our bird display area. And that gives us a little more room to work with. Now you draw 2 bonus cards for yourself. If you're playing multiplayer, each player does this exact same thing. Look at them. Look at the birds available. Look at what your AI opponent's bonus is. Look at the bonuses here. Don't worry, if you don't understand it right now, just randomly pick one to keep and discard the other. But when you get used to the game, pick the one that's more strategic for you. For our first play, we're just randomly going to pick one. I'm going to keep the Forester. I'm going to discard the other. So we'll have our bird discard pile, and then we will have our bonus and our bonus discard pile. Now we decide what birds are we going to start the game with. What you can choose is for each bird you want to keep, you discard one of your food. So you can keep more food and have less birds, or have more birds and keep less food. Again, for your first game, don't worry too much about the strategy. Let's just learn. So I'm going to keep this forest bird, this great crested flycatcher, and I'm going to discard a food. I'm going to see that when we learn about placement, this is going to need a slug and a fruit. So I might get rid of, maybe I'll get rid of a rodent. Get rid of one food, I keep one bird. I think I'll keep one more bird. I'm going to keep the forester's turn. So I'm going to discard one more food that I'm possibly not going to need. I'll discard the wheat. That means I'm going to discard the remaining 3 birds. And we'll make a discard pile right there. Your bonus card, birds, and tokens where you can easily reach them. That's it for setup. Let's learn how to play. Let's start with an introduction to the game. You are bird enthusiasts, researchers, bird watchers, ornithologists, and collectors seeking to discover and attract the best birds to your network of wildlife preserves. Each bird extends a chain of powerful combinations in one of your habitats. Each habitat focuses on a key aspect of the growth of your preserves. Gain food tokens via custom dice in a bird feeder dice tower. Lay eggs using marbled egg miniatures in a variety of colors. Expand your bird collection, drawing from hundreds of unique bird cards. The winner is the player with the most points accumulated from birds, bonus cards, end of round goals, eggs, cached food, and tucked birds. Game takes place over a series of turns and rounds. Let's look at your player turn. I have the game board set up a little bit as if the game is in play just for demonstration purposes. On your turn, you will take one of your action cubes and you will choose one of 4 actions. There are 4 rows. Play a bird, gain food from the bird feeder, lay eggs, or draw bird cards. You will choose one and you will place your cube in the leftmost available space. You will take your cube, and if it's gain food, lay eggs, or draw bird cards, you will place your cube in the leftmost open space. So we couldn't place it here because there's a bird. We would place it there to start our turn. We would then take any benefits and actions listed here. Don't worry, we're going to cover them. You would move your cube to the left, activate any brown bird powers that say when activated, and continue moving it to the left until you end up right here. Leave your cube in place. You would do the same if it was lay eggs. You would place it in the leftmost open space. That would be the very first one. You would take the action indicated, move it to the left, and your turn is done. Same with the bottom. If you had 2 birds here, you would place your cube in the leftmost available space, take the action as indicated, go left, take whatever activated action if there is one, go left, take whatever activated action if there is one, and then stop at the end. For play a bird, you're also going to place it in the leftmost open space, but how does that work, you wonder? Well, it's the leftmost open space of where you want to play a bird. So if I had a bird and I wanted to place it in a habitat, then I would be like, all right, I can place it in this space. So I would place this right here. However, if I wanted to do that over the water, we can see the leftmost space is here. So I would have to place my cube there, and then I could place in the water. You see, you have 8 cubes at the beginning of the game. That means you have 8 turns in your first round. After you've taken a turn and your cube is there, now if you're playing solo, it's your AI opponent's turn. If you're playing multiplayer, it would go to the next person working in clockwise order. If you're playing multiplayer, you would use the first player bird token. You don't have to worry about that if you're playing solo. Your AI opponent takes a turn differently from you to make the game simpler. You'd simply take the top AI deck card, you flip it over, and you place it just like this so that round 1 matches round 1. If we get to round 2, then we would flip this over during round 2, and we would make sure that the card lines up with round 2 and round 2. For the AI opponent's turn, they only take the action indicated in their round. That's why we use this as a guide. So right now we're in round 1. We would place the card here, and we would take any action that we're told to do. Don't worry, we're going to go into what all the icons mean. After that, the AI opponent's turn is over, and it goes back to your next turn. You place another cube until all 8 of your cubes for the first round, all 8 of your cubes are placed. The AI opponent's cubes may or may not all be placed. Just make sure that they take one final turn after your final turn. Once you've placed your final cube, and if you're playing solo, your AI opponent has taken their turn. If you're playing multiplayer, once everybody has taken their turn, then it comes to round end. At the end of the round, you are going to discard all birds on display, put them in the discard pile, and refresh with 3 new birds for the public display. You will take all of your cubes off the board and bring them back to your play area. If you're playing solo, the AI opponent may have some of their cubes placed in the round end card. Don't touch them. Leave them there for now. Because the next thing you're going to do is do the round end goal scoring. And we're going to learn what that is. Don't worry. Each of you will place one of your cubes based on how you did. So we'll say the AI opponent got second place, right? So we will leave one of their cubes in second place. Now we can remove all their cubes and put it over here. You're going to take one of yours, and we'll say we got first place. So we're going to put our cube right there. If you're playing multiplayer, everybody places their cube where appropriate. What that means is you have one less cube in your next round. Now you're down to 7 cubes. And then in the next round, you're going to leave another. You're going to be down to 6 cubes. So by your final round, you only have 5 cubes or 5 turns. But don't worry, you have all kinds of bird powers to compensate for less turns. Then you'd finish the round, and for your AI opponent, you would flip this card over to the next round. In this case, we would want round 2 facing up. Or if it was round 3, we would make sure that round 3 was facing up, or round 4, just whatever round you're going to. Let's say it was round 2, just like that. You would go through the AI deck, and you would look for any cards that say remove after whatever round you just did. Like this says remove after round 2. One of these, we just finished round 1, so we would remove after round 1. Just take it out of the game, reshuffle the AI deck, boom, 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 place it here, get ready to continue with your next round. Once you've completed your 4th round and you've completed the round end scoring, it's time to end the game and go to final scoring. Fortunately, we have this handy bo dandy scoring pad to help guide us through game end scoring. You'll see there's a multiplayer side. Use that if you're playing multiplayer. But we also have the Wingspan Automa. That's the solo player side to help us with scoring. You're going to have one column for yourself and one column for the Automa, and that's your AI opponent. You can see that they only score certain things. If it's a grayed out box, you don't have to score it. The end of the game, let's start with how you score for yourself. First, you're going to count your bird's victory points. Your victory points can be seen on the cards next to the feather. So each bird is worth a certain number. This bird is worth 1 victory point, 3 victory points, 5 victory points, 2 victory points, and so on. You add all of those up and come up to your total. In this case, it was 42. So I put 42 victory points. Then you count up any points you earned from meeting the conditions on your bonus card. So if I had 3 to 4 birds that can only live in the forest, that means they only have the forest icon, then I would get 4 points. Or if I had 5 birds, 8 points. Don't worry, we'll go over it. But you would then write in, if any points. In this case, we didn't meet it, so no points. Then count up any points from your end of round goals. That would be wherever your cubes landed. So we'll pretend we had this just like this here. And you would add up your points. So first place, I got 4 points. Then I got second place, 2 points. 6 points for first place, and I didn't get anything at the end. That would be a 0. So add those points together, put them in. In this example, there were 12. Then I get 1 point for every egg that's on a bird in my habitat. And with the victory points on the birds, this is only for birds in your habitat, not birds in your hand. Birds in your hand are worthless at the end of the game. So that'd be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. In this case, there was 11. So we'll pretend there are 11 eggs on the board. 11 points. You're going to have some birds with special abilities that are predators. They might end up with food cached on their card, like this example right here. Each one of those food tokens would be worth 1 point. So I would add those up, and let's say in this example there's only 1, so we'll just put 1. All right, so I would get 1 point for that, write it down. There are other birds also that flock. So flocking birds, they end up getting cards tucked under them. In this case, I have 1, 2, 3, but in this example, it looks like there was just 1. So we'll just do the 1. So there was 1 under there, so we would add that. You may have multiple birds that have this flocking power with the cards tucked. You put it, add the total together, and that's your final score. How about scoring for the Automa, your solo opponent? Not too difficult at all. What they do is you will choose a difficulty level at the beginning of the game. I think it goes like eaglet, something else, something else. So basically it's easy, normal, hard. Easy means that each of the face down cards that they will collect is worth 3 points. Normal means each face down card is worth 4 points. And then hard, each face down card is worth 5 points. So for the sake of this example, we'll say that they had collected this many face down cards. So we'd be like, all right, they got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So we'd be like, all right, we played on normal mode, 7 face down cards, 7, or I guess in this example actually it was easy mode. So we'll say it was easy. So 3 points, 7 times 3, 7, 14, that would be 21, right? So we would write that in there, 21 face down cards. They will also collect some face up cards. If they have face up cards, then you count up the victory points for that bird. So we would do that. We'd be like, all right, 5, 3, blah, blah, blah. And we would write down the total right there. They don't get any bonus card points, so don't worry about that. The bonus card is for something else entirely. End of round goals, same thing as yours. Look at the points. So for second place, they got 1 point, 5 points, 3 points, 7. Add those up. Put it in the end of round goals space. Then we have eggs. They will collect eggs throughout the game. They won't be on any board. They're just going to be in their play area. They might have a nice little pile like that. Just look at them, write down how many there are. They're each worth 1 point. In this one, they got 19 eggs. That's insanity. So put that there. Don't worry, they don't get food on cards. They don't get tucked cards. It's all grayed out. Just add up the 4 numbers that you have. You get their total. Find out how well you did. But what if there's a tie at the end? If you're playing multiplayer, then whoever has the most food tokens breaks the tie. If there's still a tie after that, just work it out amongst yourselves. Be happy you both won. Life is wonderful. If you're playing against the solo opponent, same rule applies. Whoever has the most food tokens, but the AI opponent doesn't collect food. It's always assumed that they have 2 food tokens. So if you're worried about a tie, just always make sure you have 3 to guarantee a break in the tie in your favor. Now let's get to actually playing the game. Let's go through your 4 actions. Let's say that you want to play a bird. Take your action cube, and we want to play a bird either in the forest, in the field, or in the water. So look at your available birds and see what habitat they live in. This bird lives in the forest. This bird lives in the water. This bird that's on display could live in the forest, in a field, or in the water. Any of those. So let's say that I want to place this forest bird. I would place my action cube above the column where I place the bird, and we would pay any cost indicated. In this case, we can see we would have to pay the food, but there's no egg token, so we just put this here, and to place the bird, we would then have to pay the food in this top left corner. So I would have to discard a slug and a cherry in order to feed the bird and place it in my habitat. You'll see a nice little icon over here. This circle with all the colors is called a wild. What this means is you may discard any 2 food tokens of any type, return them to the supply to take any 1 food token of your choice. Use this sparingly. In this case, we were able to pay it, so we're going to move our cube all the way to the left and leave it there. The AI doesn't actually have a play a bird action, so we don't have to worry about that. Let's say for another turn that I wanted to place a bird in the water because I've got this forester's turn right here. Well, in that case, I would take an action cube on another turn. I would place it in the column where I could place the bird, so the leftmost open space. To place this bird, I have to pay the egg cost and the food cost. For this column, we can see it's going to cost 2 eggs. So I've already got some eggs on the board. If you can't pay the egg cost, you cannot place the bird. I can discard any 2 eggs. It doesn't matter where they come from. Return them to the supply. Then you can place your bird if you can pay the food cost. I have 1 fish. This bird can eat either a slug or a fish. It doesn't need both. It needs one or the other. The slash means one or the other. So let's return that to the supply. I've placed my bird. Slide the cube all the way to the left. When you play a bird, you don't have to pay attention to anything on the card other than the food cost, unless the card says when played. So that means there's no colored background behind the text. So if I were placing the California condor, I could place it in the water, field, or the trees. There's no food cost, and when played, I get a benefit. So let's switch this up just for example. Let's say I paid the egg cost. There's no food cost. I'm putting it in the water. It says when played, draw 2 new bonus cards and keep 1. So when played, boom, boom. Take a look at both. Choose 1 to keep. Discard the other. End of turn. Let's go to our next action, gaining food from the bird feeder. Take your action cube and place it in the leftmost available space. Place it right here. Now we get to read our actions. For this space, we get to get 1 food from 1 of the die in the, or I guess the dice in the bird feeder. Let's say that I wanted a slug. So I could take the slug, place it outside the bird feeder, and take a slug. We can see in this space, I have an additional option. It's not mandatory if it's below this line. I can choose to discard 1 of my bird cards to get another food from the dice. And I can only do it once. So let's say I don't need the wild turkey. I will discard it so that I can remove 1 more die. Let's say that I wanted some of the grains. Well, this die here is either a slug or grains. It's not both. Again, we have the slash, one or the other. I'll remove it and I will take a grain and add it to my supply. And move the cube to the left and activate any brown powers, which we're going to go over shortly. In this case, it says when activated, gain 1 slug from the bird feeder if there is one. This is the bird feeder. There is no slug in there, so I don't get to gain that action. I would move to the left. Bird powers are also always optional. Some other icons you'll see to gain food from the bird feeder. Let's say that this spot had a bird in it. If I placed my action cube here, then I could remove 2 dice from the bird feeder. So in this case, I could get wheat, just like that, and fish. But let's say I don't want fish, and fish is the only option. Here's the cool thing about the bird feeder. If all the dice are showing the same symbol, you can re-roll. That means if there's only 1 left, well, that's all the dice. You can re-roll all 5 dice and refill it. But in this case, let's say there's 2 fish. I don't want the fish. Then I'm going to take all of them. I'm going to shake them. I'm going to take them through the bird feeder. And we have a refreshed bird feeder. Now I can be like, all right, I wanted the fruit. So I'll take the fruit and go right here. In the rare case that you have a full habitat right here, where do you put your cube? Well, you put it all the way to the right, and you can see there's actually a benefit over here. You could take 3 food of your choice out. So I'd do that, and I'd get all the food. Let's say a slug and 2 fish. Boom, boom, boom. Look at all this food I'm getting. And I could also discard 1 card for another food if I wanted. Again, that is completely optional. Then you would slide over. You can see there's no when activated. Then I would do my brown power when activated. Then I would go here. This is not a brown when activated power, so I'd ignore it. When activated, follow the directions and do it. Follow the directions and do it. Go all the way over. When your AI opponent takes their turn, they might have an ability to gain food. Here's what it looks like. So you flip it over. We'll say we're in round 2. Round 2, and it shows all these icons. It shows the food die and all these different icons. Well, what on earth does that mean? Well, first of all, look at what's in the bird feeder. We can see there's only 1 dice. Whenever all the dice in the bird feeder have the same face, whether it's 1 dice or 2 or 3, it doesn't matter. The AI opponent automatically re-rolls. Boom, boom. So there we go. Let's refill it. Good. They're going to remove 1 dice based on the priorities listed here. So start with the left. And it says they're going to remove a cherry if it's there. It is. So we remove all dice with that food face. All dice, not just 1. But what if there was no cherry? Well, we'd look at the next icon, which is a rat. There are no rodents in here. So we would go to the next icon, fish. There's no fish. Then it shows the slug and the wheat. This is its own symbol. It doesn't mean slug or wheat. That's its own symbol. So in that case, if that's what was in there, then we would remove those. We keep going down the priority list from left to right until they remove some food. Let's learn about our next action, laying eggs. Let's say we want to lay some eggs. We know the value of eggs. You need to pay an egg cost to play some birds. Also, eggs are worth points at the end of the game. So more eggs, the better. To take that action, take your action cube. Place it in the leftmost available space. In this demonstration, it's the second one. We take the action here. We gain 2 eggs. To gain 2 eggs of any color from the supply, the eggs are just for fun. It doesn't matter what color they are. And place them on any bird. However, each bird has an egg limit as shown on their card on the left side. You have their victory points, their nest type, and the egg limit. We're only concerned with the egg limit. This red-tailed hawk can hold up to 2 eggs. So I could place an egg there. The turkey vulture can hold only 1 egg. So I could place an egg there. Place them anywhere you want. But in this case, if I were to gain more eggs, I could not place an egg on the turkey vulture because it's at capacity. Then Below the line, I could take this bonus action. I could discard any food of my choice, boom, in order to gain one more egg and place it wherever I like. I'll place it right here, why not? Again, this is optional. You would then move your cube left. We see this is not a colored background, it's only the brown activated powers that get activated. So we would then move left and end our turn. What about your AI opponent? Do they ever take a turn where they get eggs? Absolutely. Let's take this one, set this up here. Let's flip this over, boom. And for their action, we see 2 eggs. What that means is you take 2 eggs from the supply, you put it in their supply, you're done. And our 4th and final action, draw bird cards. Take your action cube, put it in the leftmost open space. In this example, we're all the way at the end here. So I get to draw 3 cards. That means I can take any of the face-up cards, or if I don't like any of them, I can take a face-down card instead. In this example, let's say that I wanted the pygmy nuthatch. So I take, that's 1. I get to take 2 more. Well, maybe I'll take the barn swallow. Okay, you don't get to refill after you take each one. So I don't really want this bird, so for my 3rd, I'll take a face down card. Boom. And that's it. Then I'll move my cube to the left and activate any brown powers. None right there. Activate this one. Follow the instructions. This one, follow the instructions. This one, follow the brown power instructions, all the way to the end. For example's sake, let's say that this bird wasn't here and we placed our cube in this space. We see we have an option under the line. So in this case, I could get 2 bird cards. Then I could choose to discard 1 egg from any bird in order to gain another. So I discarded that egg. I could take this face-up card that's here, which I don't want, or I could just draw from the face down and add it to my hand. Once you're done drawing birds, when your turn is over, then you refill the display up to 3 birds. If you're playing solo, you'll flip over a card, and let's say that it's a play a bird icon. So we're going to look here at round 1, and we see this bird card. If you any of these instructions, don't you worry, you have your quick reference here that tells you exactly what the AI does for each icon that you see. In this case, they would look at their face-up cards. So that would be the face-up cards on display, these 3. You're going to look at the bonus card. The bonus card, Fishery Manager, applies to birds that eat fish. That's all you need to worry about for the AI bonus card, is this part right up here, nothing else. That means that they will take a bird that eats fish. So we look, all right, this bird does not eat fish. This bird does eat fish. This bird does not. So that means that we are going to draw this bird and put it into their collection. They're now going to get victory points for that bird at the end of the game. If there are 2 birds that would eat fish, then you pick whichever has the higher points and discard the other. If there are no birds that meet the criteria, then just take one of the face down birds and place it in their face down deck. So your AI opponent is going to have a face down bird deck and a face up bird deck. Make sure you don't mix them up. When they finish their turn, then refill any empty spaces. Another AI draw a bird action is for the face down card that you've seen. So if we flipped over a card, boom, for this turn, and we saw it was a face down card, then we would discard the 3 face up cards on display, boom, put them in the discard, take 1 face down card and put it in their face down deck. That's it. Then refill the 3 empty spaces with 3 new cards from the bird deck. Those are all your player actions. But for the AI, there's another one that I want you to see. Let's say we're in round 2. So we drew this card and it shows us during round 2, gain 2 eggs. So we do that. But then see this blue cube? This is when your AI opponent places their cubes. Take one of their cubes and place it on the current round goal. So let's say we're in round 2, so I would place it right here in round 2. Or if you want to be able to read, then just put it to the side somewhere. It's going to matter for round end scoring. But there's another cube symbol. Let's say we're in round 4 and we flip over this card. In this case, the AI would gain 3 eggs, put them in their supply, and then look, it's the cube with an X. What that means is remove any cube from that current round. So let's say it's round 4 and there are no cubes, then you do nothing. But if there was a cube or more than one cube, you would remove one of them and put it back in their supply. The only other AI action to look at is pink powers. Pink powers in a multiplayer game happen between turns. So it means if another player takes a certain action, you gain some kind of benefit. In this case on the board it says once between turns, when another player's predator action succeeds, gain 1 dice from the bird feeder. So let's say you're playing multiplayer and your friend next to you, they play one of their predator bird cards and they cache a food on there. And you know if it's a predator bird by this brown icon. Like this is a brown power and it has the predator icon. So if you had a friend and they activated that, they would let you know, and once between turns you could activate that pink power, but only once. So then after that, if another player activated that before getting back to you, you can't do it. You can only do it once. Well, how does that work with AI? Well, that's why on the AI deck, there is the activate all pink powers option. Let's say it's round 3. Round 3, and they get to gain a dice from the bird feeder. So we'd start from the left, they gain a fish, don't have any rodent. Okay, so we remove all the rodents. Boom. Now we see it says activate all pink powers. Then I get to look at my board and gain the benefit of all my pink powers. That's the only time I get to activate pink powers. Whew, we made it through all the actions and all the AI actions, and you're still here. You're gonna be okay. And I hope you're enjoying this. Let's go to our next spot. Let's learn how to read the bird card and about the bird powers. Then we're going to go to the end of round. To read your bird card, first, of course, you have the bird's name, Great Crested Flycatcher. This is relevant to some bonus cards that will refer to bird names. And you have your lovely picture of the adorable bird, and then the wingspan. In this case, it's 33 centimeters. This is relevant to certain bird powers that refer to a bird's wingspan. And at the bottom, we see the location. If you bought the base game, they're all going to be from North or South America. The icon here will tell you which one of those continents it's in. If you're interested in other continents, I would love to go through the expansions with you. The European expansion, the Asian expansion, and the Oceania expansion. Just let me know if you would like to see tutorials for those games. And if this is helpful to you for learning this game solo, please be sure to give me that like. Let me know in the comments. If you have suggestions, put it in the comments. I respond, I listen. Then in the top left, we see their habitat. In this case, we see this bird can be placed only in a forest habitat. If we had another bird like this, we have multiple options. They can live in the water or they can live in the forest. You can pick either one. Then we have the food cost here. So to place this bird, we would need to pay this food. If there's a plus sign, you feed them both. So this bird needs a slug and a cherry. If that were a slash, it would mean a slug or a cherry. Some bonus cards, as well as some bird powers, will also refer to a bird's diet. Then we have the victory points at the end of the game. So this bird is worth 5 victory points. Other birds are worth less, some are worth more. Then we have our nest types. So this bird nests in hollows. This star means it's a wild. These birds make unusual nests in almost any type. So for game purposes, that means that this would apply as any nest you wanted. So if a bonus card says something like, you get so many points for birds with hollow nests, Well, you could decide that this wild will count as a hollow nest. There are platform nests, and then there are ground nests, and there are bowl nests. These are just relevant to certain bird powers and bonus cards. And as we saw earlier, then there is the egg capacity. So this bird can hold up to 3 eggs on the card. Then, finally, we have the bird powers. Brown bird powers are used when activated, and you just follow the instructions on each one. So this one says, when activated, gain 1 slug from the bird feeder if there is one. A special type of brown power is flocking, which we briefly looked at before. Flocking means that this bird would usually flock, and you are going to tuck a card underneath that bird. So if it was in the habitat right here, just take a face down card, slide it underneath, you're done. Worth a point at the end of the game. Another brown bird power has to do with predatory birds. These usually refer to a wingspan of some sort, but when activated, look at a face down card from the deck, boom. If the wingspan is less than 75 centimeters, tuck it behind this bird. If not, discard it. Wingspan of 20 centimeters, so let's say it was placed here. We flip that over, we would place it underneath just like that. Tucked bird card, it's worth a point at the end. For something like this when playing solo, so this one says, when another player's predator action succeeds, gain 1 dice from the bird feeder. You always assume that they succeed or you succeed. You just gain the benefit no matter what. You don't have to worry about anything. And finally, when there is no color, then it is a when played power. It only gets used once, and that is when you play the bird on the board, you place it, you gain that benefit, and that's the only time you gain that benefit. For the end of round goals, you're looking to score for yourself and your AI opponent. If you're playing multiplayer, of course, each player just looks for themselves. In this case, we have a round goal of the number of birds placed in a habitat. Don't worry about memorizing the icons. They do become intuitive after a play or two, but you can go into your appendix. So you won't need your instruction booklet, I hope, after this video. But the appendix is still helpful if really needed. If this is your first game, you can just leave out the round end goals. It's fine. But you'll want to add it in at some point as it is fun. Alright, so end of round goals, I would look for birds in a habitat. So it shows bird in habitat, and it tells us count the total number of birds you currently have in this specific habitat. Blah, blah, blah. Alright? So I would do that. I would be like, alright, I have 1, 2, 3 birds in the water. Cool. I have 3 birds. But how many does the AI opponent have? If you're playing multiplayer, you can be like, alright, I have 3, and they're like, well, I have 2, and I have 1, so you're like, yay, I got first place, you got second, and you got third, right? Easy. Don't worry, we're going to go into ties here. But what about the AI opponent? Well, you have their round end of round goal cards. Don't worry, it looks scarier than it is. This says round 1. So when we get to round 2, we have to make sure to flip this over so that we're doing the round 2 goals, because they get harder and harder. But for round 1, we're going to look for the matching icon. So we're looking for birds in habitat. There we go. So birds in one of these habitats. Birds in the water. It means they start in round 1 with having 0. Okay. And then you add 1 for each cube. That's where the cubes come in. So 1, 2. So they count as having 2 birds in a water habitat. Well, we fortunately, thank goodness, have 3. So what do we get? We get first place. Boom. They did have at least 1 bird because of their cubes, so they get second place. So to rank at all in the end of round goals, you have to have at least 1 of whatever is required. If you don't, then you don't qualify and your cube would go to a 0. It can be 3rd or 4th place, wherever the 0 is, it doesn't matter. You don't get points for it. Same for your AI opponent. So if they started with 0, if they had no cubes there, then they would get 0 points. Put them in the 0 place, okay? We won't go through all of the end of round goals, as you can quickly look in the appendix to understand what those are. But what happens if there is a tie? If you're playing solo, let's say that I have 3 birds and they had 3 cubes. So even though it was round 1, and they started with 0, well, they have 3 cubes, so they have 3 birds. Now we have a tie. What do? Well, we each place a cube in the tied space, and we are going to end up splitting points. So you add up the points of the first place and the second place together, so that's a total of 5. And then you divide it by 2 and round up. So we would each get 3 points for being in first place. If you're playing multiplayer, then what you would do is you would make sure then that no one could rank as second place. So if you both tied for first, you do the exact same thing, add the first and second place points together, so 4 plus 1, 5 points, round it down, or divide it in half, so that's 2.5, rounded up, 3 points, same exact thing, and then no one else could place for second. The next place would have to go to third place. And then of course you leave your cubes where they are, refresh the board, start your next round. Make sure you remember to flip over that AI round end card to the next round. So round 2, and then you've got round 3, and you've got round 4. It's all the same symbols, it just gets more challenging. And then you go to end game scoring after you finish round 4, which is where you would add up any points for any of your bonus cards. Remember, your AI opponent doesn't score their bonus cards, and that's made easy by the deck graying it out. You can't write anything there. It's only there to help when doing the draw card action. But you get to score for it. If you end up having questions about your bonus cards, most of them are very self-explanatory, easy to read, but you do have the appendix. They make it very, very easy. You can see, you can go to bonus cards on page 4, and they break down any of the bonuses if you do have questions. Again, don't trouble in your first play, my goodness, please don't open that appendix. Just do what you think is right, and then in your next game, feel free to open it up. And that, my dear friends, is Wingspan. If you would like to learn how to play the European expansion solo, the Oceania expansion solo, and the Asian expansion solo, please be sure to let me know in the comments so I know there's some interest, and I'll make that video for you. I greatly appreciate it. I'm going to send you this next video I made just for you. I love you all. I'll see you next time.